And we are live. What is up, everybody? Aaron the dog back with the only breakdown for today. Breakdown for Wednesday for the LFA 132 show live from Rio De Janeiro, Brazil. Headlined by Italo Gomez versus Melk Costa. Should be a good night of fights again. We've got the Bellator London show that will be taking place earlier in the day here in the States around 1 p.m. leading into the LFA to end the night. So it should be another good Friday of MMA. And then the UFC on Saturday. We'll have timestamps up for the breakdown today. Quick little note on the UFC breakdown show. And this is tentatively moving forward as well. I've had a few people who have done UFC breakdown shows with and really enjoyed everybody who's come on. Obviously, anybody who I'm bringing on definitely brings it. Cameron Lykin's never betting Lewis Long ever again. Yeah, that was rough. It happens. Again, props completely to Thiago Guti as well for that. I was on the wrong side. I'm always going to admit when I'm wrong. I have no shame in any of my picks, and I stand behind them as well. But yeah, it happens, Cameron. But for the UFC show on Friday, just schedules have been a little bit difficult for a few of my co-hosts, and life just happens. We do this out of the passion and love of the game, and Piotr Nitlitsky, shout out to him. Enough with the Bellator. Obviously the Bellator was up and down. Overall, I'm pretty happy with how it turned out, and this week should be good too. But with the UFC show, my UFC breakdowns for the most part, I do just to complete the profile on the channel, particularly when they're solo. I feel that I need something to kind of separate myself a little bit. There's plenty of other breakdowns here. I'm sure plenty of you have used them, Cody Safdie, others. That's great. I want to be a part of that. I'm going to separate my UFC show a little bit more. I'm going to be doing it after the weigh-ins on Friday this week and tentatively moving forward. Most likely it'll just be me this Friday, but the UFC breakdown show is not going to happen today like it usually does. I'm going to have it going down on Friday after the weigh-ins. Take that into account to some extent, obviously. And then 5-fight parlay at the end of the show. Always appreciate like and subscribe already. Yeah, Zhongli, I'll go through my 5 most confident at the end. I mean, we're only going through 6 or 7 fights, I think, with the LFA. So you can kind of piece together. I'll try to be as transparent as I can be. But yeah, that's what the UFC show. So it's going to be on Friday, probably sometime in the afternoon, post weigh-ins. So hopefully it can add a little bit of a different aspect to help you making those final bets or confirming some of the bets you made. So that's all I got to say about that. Timestamps will be in the description as well for this as always, but let's go ahead and hop in here. Let me add to the screen here our trusty old Tapology page. Italo Gomez and Melk Costa in the main event. It is taking place from Rio de Janeiro, Brazil. As always, I'm only doing the main card for the breakdowns. I get it. Lincoln Santos is a spot that some people might like, but did not do too much research onto the prelims here. Galdino against a 19-year-old there, the submission threat. So there's a few potential spots there. Jefferson Nascimento versus Urian Carlos, another fight I really like on the prelims, but only doing the main card here for LFA as of now. Going to start at the 185-pound division here. Just writing down my timestamp here. And this should be a very good one. Jose Henrique taking on a very, very, solid fighter here in Pedro Oliveira. Both these guys very young in their careers here. Going to start with Pedro Oliveira, 5-0-1 versus 4-0 here. Both these guys pretty good sized middleweights. Pedro, I think, going to be a little bit of the thicker opponent, maybe a little bit more short and stocky, but definitely this guy's been active so far. Of ATT Curitiba, 5 straight wins for him, 5-0-1 overall, 6'3", good size, weighing at 184. For his last fight, got the doctor stoppage there over a 7-15 opponent. However, fight before that was against Urtin Hulk Polakini, also known as. Very, very close fight. It was a split decision. Definitely think Pedro was aggressive, but did have points where he was taken down, put on his back. Same with another fight, the Halitzin Cardoso fight as well. Has a draw on his record. Good hard hitter, more of a boxer. Both these guys are strikers. I would think that Pedro has a little bit of a power and strength advantage if I had to pick, while Jose Henrique, much more of the Muay Thai style striker, more precise with his strikes. Both guys are, pretty legit finishers. I think Jose Canela, Henrique, a little more one-dimensional, mostly just a tall Muay Thai striker as of now, but still very young in his career. 4-0, 6'5", good size on both these guys out of Nuevo Union. Last fought in November. Pedro's also had four of his 5 fights happen within the last year, so very active for Pedro. Henrique, 2 fights last year, 1 fight in 2020, 1 in 2019, so reasonably active. Hasn't fought since November, where he knocked out an 0-0 opponent, standing elbows. The Lucas Prestestes fight was stopped very early, but still, good strikes, good knees, and he's quick. He's precise with his strikes. This should be a really, really good fight. I think these guys are going to meet right in the middle, and I think they're going to bang. If one of these guys is to mix it up, I would think it would be Pedro Oliveira, though. I have ATT Curitiba, decent gym there. He just mixes up a little more in his fights. He has been put on his back. I don't see Henrique going that route, though. I think Henrique looks to keep it on the feet, work the outside, and use his Muay Thai. This should be a really good fight. Both these guys very young in their careers in Brazil. I'm sure they've had an eye on each other. I am going to go with Pedro Oliveira, who is currently a slight underdog on my book at plus 145 against the minus 175 Jose Henrique. I think it's a very good fight. I think that these guys are going to be very motivated. I do think Henrique has the advantage with the diversity of his strikes, but I think Pedro Oliveira, while he can get inside of the range and potentially really hurt his opponent, I think Pedro Oliveira is the more likely to use cage control, use the wrestling and overall MMA game. So I'm going to go with him. One thing to be said, this is a 28-foot cage they're fighting in as opposed to a 24-foot cage in Rio de Janeiro. So there's a little more room for Henrique. Could be an advantage, but I'm going to take the dog in Pedro Oliveira here. I think he's going to be stronger. He has had fights at catch weights before as well, so I think he's a little bit more the naturally bigger, not taller, but bigger middleweight. But should be a really good fight. Both these guys have a lot of promise. I'm going to take the dog in Pedro Oliveira to start my night here. So should be a good one. Chuto Boxe Mostro as well for Mr. Oliveira. Next fight here at 125 pounds. And it is, the return of one fighter, a debut for another. Sorry, just getting my timestamps in here, but Gabriela Hermogenes, always have trouble with the names, taking on Edna Oliveira. Gabriela making her second fight here in the LFA, 6-1 overall. One of the bigger favorites on the night here, taking on the 10-9 opponent, Edna. I'll talk about Gabriela Fernandez first. Gabby, also known as 5'6", 67-inch reach, last fought in July. Kimura team Jojora in Rio Grande do Norte, Brazil, out of Natal. 5 straight wins for her. Lost her second fight to a 3-0 Maria Silva. Since then, gone on a good run, good overall game, good grappling. Has the knockout on a record as well, coming off of wins of 2 Bragas. Shamara first with action fight, got the decision, and then Cuellar Braga, who we've been pretty familiar with. Good, solid kickboxer, but not much more to her. Gabriela just kind of controlled her the whole way through. She's very, very solid. Just about everywhere. Good credentials for her as well. They're bringing her along slowly here. Cuellar Braga, mostly a kickboxer. While Edna here, we'll get to really quickly. Truckiness, 31 years old, did fight just in March, but she got the loss, coming off of 2 straight losses with Rocha. Top team, 5-4 for the 31-year-old here, losing to a decent level of competition throughout her career. Got fighters like Svetlana Goitsik, who we've been familiar with, got finished by her. Had an injury in one of her fights early on. Just had a tough start to her career, as well as faced Tanera Silva a few times. Got a win against her, got a loss against her. Just an overall weird career. 2 wins against Anna Mantovani. I mean, just haven't heard of a lot of these fighters on the record. Has a draw with Melissa Gatto in 2017, however. That's interesting for sure. She's been in there with a high level of competition. And Gabriella, for the most part, is yet to be tested. So for me, I see Cameron saying that her mug is a lock. I would hope so at this price. I'm not going to be touching it. Minus 500 is just not a price I'm interested in playing with in low-level women's MMA. Plus 375 on Edna. Was able to watch a few fights with Edna. She's nothing special, but she is tough. She can hang in there. So for me, on minus 500, Gabriella is not appealing at all. I'm just going to leave this off my tickets for the most part. So and that's pretty much all I got to say about that fight. Gabriella should win it, but again, you're paying a steep price there on a 6-1 fighter who hasn't been super tested. So I'm going to leave it at that. We're going to go on to our next fight, which is the strawweight fight. What up, Justin? How you doing? And I'll talk to you in 1 second about that. 1 second, Justin. I'll just reiterate what I just mentioned with the UFC show. But next fight is at the strawweight division, and it is between 2 Brazilians here, Bruno Brasilia, and Bruno Brazil, and Yasmin Mostrinha Castaño. Good fight here between a 5-0 opponent in Yasmin and a 6-2-1 opponent in Bruno Brazil. Justin, real quick, I'm going to be doing my UFC show because some issues with some scheduling with Lewis, and Lucky Locks has COVID, unfortunately. I'm going to be doing my UFC show on Friday after the UFC lands. I'm going to try it out this week, see how it kind of works as a new potential UFC show. To everybody and their mother has a UFC show on YouTube. I know that. I'm aware. I'm looking to kind of have a niche that can help complete the information for what should be a rotation that you guys have with your information here. So that's what I'm doing. UFC probably Friday afternoon around 3 p.m. after the weigh-ins. So that's what I'm doing. But looking forward to this fight. Between the 2 women's fights, I think this is a much more intriguing fight. I've enjoyed watching both these fighters. Bruna Brazil, 6-2-1, 28 years old, 5'6", weighed in at 118 for her last fight, but has made strawweight most of the time in her career. Hasn't fought since August of last year. Got a win over Ingrid Silva. Just unleashed on her right away. Gave her no chance. Hit her with a real clean shot. Put her down with some knees and finished on the ground. It was really impressive. Also had a boxing bout last year. Lost by decision in that one. Has a really good guillotine choke. She's very tall. Can get on that neck standing and on the ground. Has a few finishes. The Alexia Tanera fight, very impressive. Wore her down and then got it in the 3rd round of that fight. Also a 2nd round guillotine. Very tall, good movement. Her only loss coming to Jessica Del Boni in her 4th fight ever, or one of her 2 losses coming to Jessica Del Boni in her 4th fight ever. Her other loss coming in her debut to Ariana Carlosi, who it was in 2014 in an 0-1 fighter, but still very high level of competition losses. Was finished in both of those. But, since then has come back Good movement, like I said, good overall strikes. She's decently well-rounded as well. And so, I'm glad that, I'll see you on Friday, Justin. But overall, I liked what I've seen out of Brazil, especially on the feet. That is where she's going to have to keep this fight with a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt and Yasmin Castaño. Yasmin looks a bit frozen and lost on the feet, though. She really does. And, she did have a successful debut with that first-round armbar that she slowly kind of sunk in there against her opponent. Wasn't super impressed by her opponent, even though it was a 4-0 opponent, Marcela Alves. But on the feet, it does look like where Castaño is going to have trouble if she does. With Bruna, she's a taller opponent. She's going to be harder to take down. I think she's got an underrated, kind of wrestling, jiu-jitsu, grappling aspect to her game. And so for me, I'm taking a shot on Bruna Brazil. I think that she can keep this on the feet. I think she's got legit power. I think she's got good movement. The larger octagon is helpful. I'm not crazy about Castaño's ability to get the fight to the floor. I think if it's not on the floor, we could see her start to kind of panic, overreach for some takedowns and whatnot. And it wouldn't put it past Bruna to possibly get a finish. But either way, I think Bruna is significantly better on the feet. I'm taking a shot at the underdog here in this spot at plus 160 in Bruna Brazil. I think it's a good price. I think it's a very close fight. And on the feet, I think Bruna can really pull away as this fight goes. If Yasmin gets it to the ground, she's world-class on the ground. Definitely could finish it there. But I'm taking the shot on Bruna Brazil at plus 160. I like the shot. I think both these girls are very good. They've both been in there with decent level of competition for this stage in their career, and I'm really looking forward to it. So should be a very good one for both fighters there, and we should learn quite a bit about them. Next fight is weird. This fight is very weird. It's got to be the weirdest on the main card for sure. Let me get the timestamp real quick here. 17:05 for Leo Light, and Clayton Trasante. This is an interesting fight, and right away, I would highly recommend everybody stays away from this fight. We have a 44-year-old making their return from a long, long period against a very hard to watch in a lot of his tape, Clayton Trasante. I know he's 9-1, but it was this fight is just one that if you got a good read on it, congratulations. But I'm not so sure. Clayton is won 3 straight. He's 9-1 out of Elite Thai MMA. Last fought in July of last year with X-Fest 14, beating an 0-0 Elvis Rebello, knocking him out in a minute. Other fights against an 0-2, 0-1, lost to a 2-1 Mario Francisco Guerrero, 6-1, 1-1, 0-1, no record, all taking place on the Rio Grande do Sul regional scene. 2018, 2010, most of his fights taking place in. He hasn't lost in a decade because he's hardly fought. 2012, he had a fight. 2014, he had a fight, and then came back in 2021 with the quick finish. He's mostly a striker, doesn't, have a ton of great tape from what I've seen, but that does seem to be where he's effective. Leonardo Leite, definitely known for his grappling realm. He's lost to Gabriel Gonzaga several times in grappling, but he's a big grappler. Now fighting at middleweight, 6'1", 75-inch reach. Brazilian top team. Has not fought since 2018. He's on a 2-fight losing streak in MMA. Also lost in grappling to Gonzaga recently after a grappling match years and years ago. His losses coming in Bellator to good competition. 2 decision losses to Phil Davis and Chris Honeycutt. Those guys both just completely wrestled him, eliminated the jiu-jitsu, and he has some decent stand-up, but definitely uses a stand-up to set up his grappling for the most part. Has a knockout of Myron Dennis back in Legacy on the championship fight. in 2014, has a win over Ryan Spann back in 2015, knocked out Matt Masterson back in 2016. Really was at one point a pretty legit older prospect. Fight or grappling matches with Roger Gracie at IBJJF in 2018, IBJJF World Championship against Gabriel Gonzaga, and Fabricio Verdum wins over Mario Sperry. Has definitely been in there with some of the best grapplers. Based on that, I would go with Leo Leite, just because he's definitely a much more known commodity, has a very good, level of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu expertise, hasn't been active in a while. Obviously, that's a concern. Minus 185. Don't love it, but I do think he should get by the Clayton Trisante, who I don't really rate. Cameron saying Hermag, Lacerda, Daily Trainer, Chikagian over 2.5. Don't hate that at all. Someone is getting set up with a fight. I just don't know which fighter. Fair enough. But yeah, that's all I'm going to go into on that one. I think that's the weirdest fight of the night, and not one that I think anybody should be super duper confident in. Next fight, we're at the third from the top. This is a fighter I'm very excited to see returning to the octagon, and Gabriel Gabito Silva, brother of Eric Silva. Silva taking on the unknown commodity in Rono Jr. I say unknown commodity because, unfortunately, I don't like saying this. I couldn't find any tape on Rono Jr. Not anything. So the 8-1 fighter is a blind resume that I have to look at through Tapology, and I really, really rate Gabriel Silva. So this is my weird spot because I don't know how good Rono Jr. is coming into this fight. I'll go through what I have, the information I've been able to gather on him, and then, kind of just give my thoughts on Silva making his return, and then we'll move on. But 3 straight wins for the Camora Nova Union Brasilia representative of Brasilia Federal District in Brazil. Has not fought since 2019, where he beat an 0-4 fighter. Don't like that at all. You're supposed to take on Myron Santos last year in Chuto, Brazil, and Myron Santos got signed with the LFA, and just nothing ever happened for him. Would have been by far the most impressive opponent since Carlos Augusto da Silva, who he lost to by decision. Otherwise, the guys Ono has fought a lot of unknown fighters here. A lot of 1-2, 0-0 fighters making their debuts. A 5-9 has 1 win over an undefeated plus record fighter. Otherwise, a lot of not great records here. Gabriel Silva, kind of an opposite type of resume here. Last 2 fights came with the UFC in 2020. No, they were not successful. 5'6". He's 5'4". He's not 5'6". He's 5'4". Very short. But packs quite the punch. Very good Muay Thai fighter, good Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, good overall game for the Team Nogueira representative. He just got wrestled and handled by Ray Borg and Kyler Phillips, and there were points in those fights where he had moments, but just wasn't able to get past the high-level wrestling that the UFC had to offer. He's taken off a couple years, and he's coming back against a Brazilian here. I'm really looking forward to it, looking at his career before getting into the UFC. The Jake Heffernan fight, very impressive. Never let Heffernan get it to the ground, where he was very overconfident in his ability on the feet, and he just speed, good accuracy, and everything to put his opponent away. The Kamil Lebakowski fight, very good to show that he can handle a taller opponent. I really like Gabriel Silva here. I'm going against a blind opponent here. That's the risk, but I think Gabriel Silva is coming back with a purpose. He looks to be in great shape. It's very good plus skills, and I like him to win this fight. And I think that he can, finish it by submission or KO. Maybe Rono Jr. comes out and we're blown away, but judging from the level of competition, this is by far Rono's most tough test to date. I like Gabriel Silva to make the return after a 2-year layoff, minus 170. So, again, if we see Hono at, and we get some worries, maybe we hold off. But I do think Gabriel Silva is the real deal. I think he's going to make a good return and eventually be signed with a larger organization again. But we shall see. Gabito versus Juninho in the third from the top. So next will be the co-main event. Like I said, the timestamps will be available in the comments after this. And by the way, we've got an Invicta tonight, so I'll go through the Invicta very quickly at the end and give my picks. I know this is a fight that a lot of people are very excited about. I am as well. Let me just get the timestamp here of 24/7 for the fight between Luan Luis Lacerda, a very, very accomplished grappler, made a very impressive debut over Pedro with the heel hook second round finish, taking on the debuting Marceli Alves Durin. 9-2 versus 11-1. Very good records here for these two bantamweights. Marceli Alves normally fights at flyweight, so he will be moving up here, but 22 years old, 5'4", fought in March of this year with JFC, 2 straight wins for him out of Sao Paulo, Brazil. Win of over a 6-2 fighter, Daniel Sequeira, with Jungle Fights, got the knockout pretty quickly in that one, coming off a win by decision over a 9-2 Douglas Cunha. Got submitted by Diego Piva in the fight with Road to the Future in August of last year. Knockouts before that, mostly a heavy-handed fighter here. Good knockouts, especially for the flyweight division. Should have a good amount of speed coming up here. Diego Piva, who got the finish 9-4. He's a jiu-jitsu practitioner, very good fighter himself. Actually excited to see what he does next, but not too much of a shame there in that win. Most of his wins coming by rear naked choke, just caught him. Other loss coming by decision. Most of his fights ending within the first round. Good power, good speed. I think that's really where he's going to have to hope to keep this fight. I do think Luan has a pretty clear route to victory here, and then Luan Luis Lacerda is to use that striking to set up the groundwork. Luan is really legit, 11-1, 29 years old. Novo Union had a little bit of a slow start in his LFA debut, but again, was able to survive that to get his 9th straight win. You see the submissions, guillotines, heel hooks, rear naked chokes. We've got triangles, anacondas, arm bars, all sorts of submissions. Was submitted in his 3rd fight of his career in 2014 by a very good Brazilian submission expert in Ari Farias. I don't really think that's a terrible win. Has that very impressive anaconda choke over Raulian Paiva. That's aged very well. He should be the bigger opponent, significantly better on jiu-jitsu, and because of COVID and visa issues, I don't look into 2-year layoffs as anything. Yeah, I mean, that's fair too. I mean, Gabriel had a pretty disappointing run in UFC, so where he wasn't like beat into injuries either. So yeah, just got to that comment. But for me, I'm not overthinking this one too much. I really like Luan Luis Lacerda. I think he's going to have a size advantage in this fight and a significant advantage on the ground, where I look for Luan to get the submission finish. I assumed Luan would be a significant favorite. He is pretty decent at -300, although I don't think that's terrible. I think it's a very good parlay piece. I'm seeing Hermog and Lacerda as the 2 parlay pieces for Cameron here. I like Lacerda a little more than Hermog, even as just based on the price and everything. So I agree with Lacerda. I think Lacerda by submission is a good spot here. Good position in the co-main event for Luan Luis Lacerda to get the finish. So should be a good one. Excited to see how Marceli looks in his short notice LFA debut here, up a weight class. But should be interesting. On to the main event here. The main event, I think it's a pretty damn good one at 155. We got Melk Costa taking on the fellow Brazilian Italo Gomez. I really enjoyed watching both these guys. Right away, I'll admit, Melk, not the most technical guy. Yeah, and then Kelly's saying this is a mismatch, Lacerda by murder. That's the plan. But yeah, on to the main event here, Italo Gomez versus Melquizael Costa, also known as Melk. I'll be breaking down Melk first, 17-4. Very, very popular fighter. He's bounced back and forth between featherweight and Lightweight, at lightweight, he looks pretty quick, but a little bit maybe small. Still only 25 years old, though. Very impressive. Shuto Boxo Barua. He's a shoot box style fighter, straight up. Not the most technique, but he goes in there and he will mix it up with anybody. He has a ton of confidence coming off that win against Angel Rodriguez, where Angel Rodriguez was the one who initiated the takedowns. And then by the second round, Melk was taken the back, got the finish by a rear naked choke. So pretty, good performance there. And Gomez level of opponents is low. And then Melk is also not very handsome. That's not nice. But yeah, Melk, definitely the higher level of opponents between these guys. Anderson Ferreira got a knockout there, the 14-2 opponent there. Very impressive fight there. 13-4, you see an 8-2. Angel Rodriguez was not that impressive to me. The Rafael Barbosa fight. Talk about a tough fight. They're very back and forth in the first couple rounds, but then Melk got absolutely caught in a guillotine. They said arm triangle, but it looked like a guillotine Darce choke for about a minute. He had to be out for 30 plus seconds. The ref was just staring at him and just let him just stay there. And then Melk is smooth on the feet. Gomez throws sloppy. Melk should piece him up. I don't think either guy is exactly not sloppy on the feet. I think both guys are somewhat unorthodox is probably the word they'll use. I wouldn't say either guy is super technical on the feet, though. That Barbosa fight, hard to watch. The Marcos Vinicius fight, I'll say it right now, Marcos Vinicius did not win that fight. I believe Melk won that fight. I think he was robbed in that one, so that's a rough loss for me. So for Melk, he's really on quite a nice run here. With that win, that would be 7 straight wins for him. Decent level of competition, everything like that. Was supposed to face Alexander Shabliy in 2020, and then Costa tested positive for COVID. Pretty fortunate there. Italo Gomez is 10-2, 25, still only 25, 26 years old, 5'9", but kind of fights like I think he seems like a little bit taller of the two guys here, stands a little bit taller. At Tata Fight Team, decent fight camp, has not fought since October or November of last year, where he got a very, very generous finish. It was somewhat of a slam. It was more of, he picked him up with a double leg and took him down. And Claudio Faritas was getting back to his feet, and, he's getting hit with some shots. They're nothing crazy. And then, all right, I'll be honest, I'm going off Melk's Instagram videos of him striking. Yeah, in the fights, it's not quite like the Instagram videos. But, Italo, it wasn't like some crazy ground pound or slam there. I do think it was a bad stoppage there, but, it is what it is. 19-19 opponent. Unfortunately, is one of the bigger tests. The two other big tests he's lost those. Everton Freitas. Worked that fight, as did Murat Magomedov. Both guys won pretty comfortably in those fights and those decisions. For Italo, he was at times lacking a little bit of movement and just sometimes allowing his opponent to make the decision. In this fight, Melk is going to have no problem pushing forward and making the decisions. So, for Italo, I think Italo really has to use his length of his strikes and everything in this fight. He is a good Muay Thai fighter. He's got good jiu-jitsu as well. He's pretty well-rounded, but I'm a little bit concerned with the level of competition that he's faced so far. And, when his opponent is pushing the pace and pushing the volume, he does tend to struggle. That is something that I do expect Melk to do in this fight. I think it's a close fight. For me, Italo should be a little bit of the bigger opponent. Melk, I think, will be the more aggressive and push the pace more in this fight. I think Melk will have an advantage with the cardio. It's a close one. It's really close. Earlier, I was leaning a little towards Italo. At this point, I'm kind of torn. I'm going to lean ever so slightly. I think this one goes the distance, and I'll say Melk Costa ends up edging this one out. It's not one I'm going to be betting super heavily in this. I think Melk uses mostly his stand-up, honestly, Cameron. I think on the ground, Italo is, pretty legit as well. And I would think of the spots where Melk feels he has the advantage, it would be with regards to pace and volume on the feet. But I think Melk will use it all. I think Melk is a well-rounded fighter. I think he'll mix in the takedowns as this fight goes, and as he sees maybe a more of a cardio advantage. But I'm going to go with Melk in this one. I've been back and forth. I'll be honest. Earlier today, I was leaning a little towards Italo Gomez. Now I'm on Melk. Yeah, I'm going to go with Melk by decision. Minus 165. I like the level of competition that he's beaten some of those high-level opponents. Well, Italo, mostly low-level. And the times he has stepped up in the competition, it has not fared all that well. But, I do think that Italo is the bigger, more natural lightweight. So I think Melk has to really use the cardio. And I do think Italo is not a bad dog pick if you're going, but I'm going to edge towards Melk in this one ever so slightly by a decision. And that's going to do it for the UFC or the LFA 132 breakdown. Real quick, I'm just going to go through and give you guys my thoughts on tonight's Invicta taking place live on. Yeah, Kelly, he is sloppy, but I mean, it can work. And now I'm going to give you my thoughts on the Invicta taking place live on Facebook or on YouTube tonight. So these are just quick picks on Invicta. I did look into it, and I'm familiar with most of these fighters. Not going to go super in-depth, though, so you can take this as a little bit of a Invicta quick pick segment. Invicta 47, Emily Ducati versus Ashley Zapata versus Kansas City. We'll go through the whole card. Jennifer Chang 1-1 versus Alyssa Lidnowski. I didn't look into this fight at all. I'll take the Jennifer Chang 1-1. No idea. Fatima Klein versus Sydney Trilo. Sydney Trilo, super powerful, really good striker versus the legit grappling of Fatima Klein. I really like the grappling I've seen on Klein. I think she's going to use Sydney's power against her and submit her. Serena De Jesus versus Brittany Cloudy. This is two rough, very raw competitors here. Give me Brittany Cloudy to use her physical advantages and get this one done. Janissa Muradin versus Lyanna Purosine. Moradin. Why not? Not gonna say too much more about that fight at flyweight, but I'll take Moradin. At 105, the bantamweight fight between Jillian DeCourcy at 4-3 and Lindsey Van Zandt 7-5. I'll go with Lindsey Van Zandt, but she's hurt me before, so I'm a little jaded. But Lindsey's faced better competition. Should take this one. Courtney King versus Chelsea Chandler. I am all over Chelsea Chandler here to get the finish in this one. I think she's significantly better than Courtney King. And Emily Ducati versus Alicia Zapatella. Zapatella, the former atomweight, moving up the strawweight. Emily Ducati, very, very good, very well-rounded, and one of the bigger strawweights. Emily Ducati is just too well-rounded and too good. She's got to keep it from the grappling. So Emily Ducati in that spot there. And, that is going to do it for the LFA breakdown show here. I will have the timestamps in the description here. And if you weren't with me earlier, the UFC show is going to be on Friday this week. And probably moving forward, I'm going to try it on Fridays. I'm going to try a little post-weigh-in UFC breakdown action. So join me on Friday afternoon for that, around 3 p.m. Eastern time. But the Bellator London show, breakdown show, is on the channel now with me and Lewis of Norton MMA. We banged that out yesterday. LFA is here for Friday, so the Friday's covered. Excuse me. UFC on Friday, breakdown show on Friday after the weigh-in. So join me for that. Hopefully it's some good information. For Aaron the Dog, Cameron, Kelly, Manny, everybody else, the Glove Touch, everybody else has joined me. I appreciate you. Bellator starts at 1 p.m. It should end just in time for you to have some dinner and then enjoy the LFA. So for Aaron the Dog, keep taking care of each other out there. Thank you all for joining me. Thank you for subscribing and liking and sharing the content. And I'll see you Friday for the post-weigh-in UFC breakdown show. Can't wait. Have a good one. Keep taking